Today's session is going to be about how to manage increased demand for property inspections post-lockdown. I thought it would be useful for looking at a bit of background information. So between March 17th and April 14th of this year, the number of new tenancy applications plummeted by 72%, and that reduced market activity by at least 3/4, and that was compared to 2019. Now, most people would obviously say, well, that's expected. With everything that we're dealing with at the moment, it's not unusual to expect reduction in demand purely because everybody was on lockdown, everybody was having to manage the government guidelines for remaining safe through the initial stages of COVID. And something to bear in mind is we're still in it. We are still finding pockets of increased COVID numbers. So we're not definitely out of the woods yet. So this reduction, this 72% really does make a lot of sense, bearing in mind what we're all going through at the moment. To kind of help put it into a better context, that means that 80% of completed lets actually dropped by the same period this time last year. So that's a huge decrease in the actual market and the activity in the market, and that then would affect letting agents or subcontractors, including ourselves as inventory providers. So that gives you a bit of context. But what we've found since then, that since, in the 2 weeks leading up to April 14th of this year, that demand has then surged back up by at least 30%. And I think that figure is actually much bigger than that, purely because, we're still kind of collating data, and the data given by Zoopla is constantly being collated. I mean, market is changing almost on a daily basis, depending on what restrictions are happening and what everybody needs to be adhering to in regards to COVID. But the fact that we've surged back up by 30% is really good news. And I think that is certainly a lot bigger. So that means then with that comes increased demand. As I said, we are expecting activity levels to continue and to increase, and also more quickly in the rental market than in the sales market. And to illustrate that, the time to let at the moment is less than 3 weeks. So that's from the beginning of the tenancy, from when you start signing all the paperwork, doing all the different requirements in regards to legislation, right to rent, and all the paperwork involved in that. Whereas at the moment, the average for completing a sale is about 3 months. And I actually think that actually might be a lot longer than that. The reason I'm saying that is because if you look at what's happening with the market, even with the fact that they've reduced or limited the amount of tax payable for properties up to the 500,000 mark, they're still going to take a lot of lead-in time. And also the fact that you've got surveyors and all of the other work in regards to conveyancing, etc. All of those are having to play catch up. And also they're still, in some respects, having to deal with furloughed staff, so the reduced staff count, which means there's a big backlog of work to be done. A really good illustration of this is the fact that the last time I looked, which was yesterday, the government are currently experiencing about 400,000 passport applications in backlog because of reduced staff and the ability to get through all of that. So that gives a bit of an indication on a wider market level as to what is happening in regards to not having the amount of staff available to do all the normal work and get all the applications through as quickly as you would normally expect. But certainly in the letting market, that application, that process is certainly less than 3 weeks. And certainly from my own point of view, because I'm not only just a trainer for InventoryBase and InventoryBase Academy, I also run my inventory company. I'm seeing that properties are coming onto the market and then going off the market, i.e. let, and tenants moving in a very time period, and sometimes in literally a couple of days. So the time to let is definitely less than 3 weeks. And again, if you look at the sales market, having to wait those 3 months means then people would need somewhere to live. So it makes sense for them to go into the rental market. So that's where we're getting the increased demand, plus also all the pent-up activity that we've seen in the market because people weren't allowed to move, and many needed to move either because of family side of things, i.e. they'd already started this process, maybe they were in a sale, or they've had to move because of either furlough or because of change in their job. It just shows you that there's been a definite increase in market activity, which is brilliant, again, for our side of the industry. So as I say, great news. It means then, we're getting back up to some form of normality, although obviously at the moment, to say normal is pretty difficult. I think we don't really know what normal is at the moment, but certainly it's great news that we're actually starting to see some upward trend in work numbers. So how do you manage reports and increase workloads? That's a big question, isn't it? And it's a question that certainly from InventoryBase point of view can answer in regards to Workstreams. So Workstreams is an online platform within InventoryBase. Basically, it allows people who want reports, that could be agents, that could be landlords, it could be tenants, because tenants still ask for reports to be done. And even with the tenant fee ban, they can still pay for that if that's something that they choose to do, and that they start that process themselves. Whereas, as everyone knows in the industry, we can't ask tenants to pay for reports. So what Workstreams does, it brings what we call the buyer, which could be landlord, letting agent, could be property management, it could be the tenant, and the supplier, so the inventory professionals, also other disciplines that Workstreams supports in regards to like Legionella risk assessments, EICR reports, and a whole host of other types of reports for the industry. And it brings them together. It means that they can talk together in the safety of a platform where they can book reports, they can talk to the supplier themselves are vetted in regards to making sure that they are insured, that they are producing and are able to produce quality reports, so you know what you're getting as the buyer. And it takes you through that process so that you can book the report, you can determine what you need, when you need it. That then goes out to the marketplace, to Workstreams, and then suppliers, such as myself, can actually then bid on those reports and say to them, okay, well, within this area for a 3-bedroom, I would normally expect to receive X amount, and I would do that report for you on that date when you needed it. And then it's down to the buyers to whether they decide that that's the supplier they would like to work with. And one of the benefits, certainly as a supplier point of view, from my personal point of view, is the fact that I've got a way of ensuring, one, that I'm meeting with qualified buyers, and again, with the suppliers as well, we're qualified in regards to being vetted. But what it also means is that I feel comfortable and safe that we're going to get paid for the work. So because the system requires the buyer to pay for the work up front, so therefore, as soon as I complete that work, I know that as soon as I submit it and everybody's happy, then I will get paid for that. And I'll also get rated, because it's something, again, the industry doesn't seem to have in that regard. We have our own ratings, maybe on Google or maybe on our own websites, but certainly nothing in regards to the actual industry as it stands. And certainly from my point of view, I think that's great, because it means then we can then start being recognised for the professional service that we are. And that is noted then when it comes to the next report, when the next buyer wants to use services, they can see our rating, they can see our sample reports, they know that we're vetted, they know that we're insured. It gives them the confidence to use the system and confidence that we will deliver a good quality report. By having Workstreams, by enabling Workstreams, both for the buyer and for the supplier, it means then we can bring the two together in a very safe, very controlled environment that allows them to talk to each other and probably talk to people they would never have done so before, because it is often difficult to know where to access landlords, where to access agents, and also understand what their pain points are in regards to, do they need the reports quickly? Do we want them branded, either in, white labeled for them, or whether they're happy to use our supplier branding. So it gives us a lot of options in order to work together in one particular area, i.e. on Workstreams. And it's very much backed up by a very good support system, in as much as that you've got the actual InventoryBase platform, you've got the app, and then you've got the support team and the sales team that sits behind that. So it's a great experience, and it's something that certainly in the industry we've been waiting for a very, very long time. I know I have, and it's something I've definitely been asking about. So that is Workstreams in a kind of like nutshell. Obviously there's more to it, and we can give you some more details if you would like that, and I'll definitely encourage you to certainly have a look at that, because it is a great bit of kit. Because I always look at anything like the app, the Workstreams, the InventoryBase system as tools for me to be able to do my job as an inventory provider as well as I possibly can. So from a point of view of actually accessing it, you can actually access the system as an external buyer by actually going on the website and actually just using the online booking form in order to actually book that report. And then that will go into the system, and then you'll be able to access the supplier. So you don't necessarily have to be a member or an account holder of InventoryBase to actually access this system, which again is really great, because we have a lot of standalone landlords that maybe need an extra bit of help, be able to access the supplier, maybe not know where to go and get a quality provider, so they can certainly come onto the platform and source a good inventory professional this way. The other way of also managing it, and in a way it is very much combined and working very simultaneously with InventoryBase Workstreams, is InventoryBase Academy. This is kind of like where I sit and what I do. And the whole point of InventoryBase Academy has been born out of the fact that we have some brilliant professionals working in the industry UK-wide, but what we don't seem to have is standards in regards to, well, what does a report need to have? How does it need to be formed? And how does it need to then be given over to the agent, to the landlord? What do they need? And how does inventory professional make sure that they are providing the report that both buyer, the landlord, the agent needs, but also what the adjudicator needs in regards to deposit deductions and the deposit schemes. Academy seeks to address that. And the way we seek to address that is through training. So we devised an online training course and also a practical online training course. Now that COVID has obviously happened, we've pivoted and made sure that we've got the ability to train online so that, you don't lose out on the ability to have a one-to-one with me, with trainers, to be able to ask all those important questions. And sometimes they're very small questions, but are then very, very niggly and not quite sure about, but it'd just be great to have someone to actually ask those. We provide advice in regards to what report is, what it should be, and also advice about the industry as a whole. Certainly at the moment with COVID and pre that tenant fee ban and all the changes into the industry, sometimes it is certainly very difficult to understand what it is as providers we should be doing, how we should be providing our reports, what they need to be including, and more importantly, why. So we advise a lot on that. And we also give guidance in regards to what you should be doing, certainly in regards to safety, not just COVID, but safety in the actual property itself, how you should be helping your clients manage their portfolio by giving them good advice and guidance, and also looking at the wider industry. One thing I say to a lot of people when I'm training is that you should be looking beyond the report. Don't just think about don't just think about doing the report. Think about what the report is, what it does, who it goes to, why they need it, and what they will actually do with that report. If you can do that and understand that, then your report will be so much better for it, because then you're looking at, okay, well, why am I doing it? Not just the fact of actually putting the report together. So you're asking yourself questions, well, do I need to think about risk mitigation? Do I need to think about what the tenant's going to need to see in this report, and also how they're going to access it, given the ability to have comments and upload photos, which on InventoryBase that is enabled. And also now, because again, COVID means that we can't be together, or not as together as much as we could do, and certainly social distancing, etc. You need an ability to be able to both view the report online, sign the report online, have comments added to the report online, and also upload photographs. So it makes it completely contactless, but it doesn't then detract from the fact that you've got all that detail, all that information available to you as both the tenant, as the landlord, as the agent, as the adjudicator. Again, from a guidance point of view, we're giving out loads of information as to how you do that. And part of that also is support. One of the things we do, again, certainly in InventoryBase Academy, is we've got a support hub. So that means then we've got a place where clerks can go and talk and ask questions, look for advice, look for guidance, and feel supported. Certainly when I first started in the industry, there was no support at all. You're very much on your own, and certainly as an industry, we tend to be mostly sole providers. It's very rare that we would go out and work with another individual. So support, not just in the general sense, i.e., how do I do things? Where do I go? What would you do about this, etc. It's also the mental health side of it, the support, having someone you can talk to, ask questions, and feel able to ask those questions, and not feel that, you can't, because maybe, I don't know, they could be a competitor or they're an agent, and the agent expects you to know. And if you don't know, then you might feel a bit difficult. It might be a bit difficult, a bit awkward for you to ask those questions. So by us providing you that support, we can hopefully answer those questions. And if we don't know, then we find out. And then the other bit, which I also mentioned a few minutes earlier, is about setting industry standards. Currently at the moment, the deposit schemes kind of say, well, what they would like, how they would like to see it in regards to including certain aspects of the report, or making sure that we're able to say in the report whether, a tenant's responsible, landlord's responsible if there's maintenance issues. But there's no actual industry standards. And I think certainly if we can help formulate those, both for the benefits of clerks, but also for the wider industry, industry. That will help drive up quality of reports, and it also help drive up the cost of the reports, because certainly in my experience, the cost of the reports is being very much driven down because they're not quality, but just purely because it's seen as a nice to have as opposed to a must have. And again, if we could change that regarding the industry, how they look at the reports, and also drive up the standards, then maybe we could make reports mandatory. And if you think about it, if there's an average of 5 million renters in the UK at the moment, if you think about how much money that then looks like in regards to the deposits, and then the report is the only way you're going to get either your deposit back or equally have access to the deposit if maybe there's been issues or damages or dilapidations, or there needs to be some money taken away from the deposit. When you think about it, the main vehicle for doing that will be an inventory report, will be the checkout report. So if you don't have a good report, if you don't have a report that is factual, it's impartial, and it gives the adjudicator or the landlord or the property management team the tools and the resources to be able to make a justified judgment on that property, on that deposit, then it's going to make it very, very difficult for either the tenant to receive their deposit back, or if not, for the landlord to get access to funds from the deposit that effectively they are entitled to. So again, getting back down to setting the industry standards, if we can set those standards and say what's needed, we can drive up the quality and make sure that all reports are fit for purpose every single time, not just once, not twice, not just specific to the individual provider, but every single time. And so that goes back up to the list again about making sure people have got the right training, they have the right advice and guidance, so they understand what it is that they've got to provide, why they've got to provide it, and to what level and what standard they need to provide it, but also then offer the support to make sure that by them doing that, they can then actually do their job properly, by the fact they've always got someone to go back to and they feel supported, and that the industry sees them as the inventory professionals they are. And a couple of ways we do this is not just obviously just the verbal side of things. We do podcasts, we do webinars, we do blogs. I'm very active on LinkedIn, as probably a lot of people realise. And I think the more we talk about the industry, the more people understand what the industry is about, what clerks do, how professional they are, how we can raise standards, and also how we can be seen in a level playing field in the industry. So it's not just letting agents and estate agents, it's also all the contractors, all the people that support those two areas of the industry, because without those levels of support, then the letting agents, the estate agents, wouldn't be able to do their job properly. Certainly from an InventoryBase Academy point of view, we're looking at all the resources, all the tools that we can give people in order to be able to do their job properly to the best of their ability. And as I said, drive up the standards in the industry so that, like I said, we're able to give good quality reports that can be relied on, that are factual, impartial, and that protect everybody. It's not about protecting just the landlord. It's not a one-way street. It's about protecting everybody in the chain of the tenancy. And then if something does go awry in the tenancy and the deposit needs to go to dispute, then everybody's got everything that they need in order to make a balanced and factual decision, certainly from the adjudicator point of view. So from InventoryBase point of view, we've actually seen a 90% upturn in activity since lockdown has eased. So that is telling us that the industry is getting back to normal, that the industry is certainly picking up, and certainly there's a need for reports. And certainly you can see that the letting agent side of things is also getting back up and running. Staff are coming back from furlough. Certainly my own clients, they're opening up their offices. I know that a lot of them aren't actually opening their offices to the public, but they're certainly online. And certainly as we go forward, I think we'll find more and more of our role online. Obviously, from a clerk point of view, we need to be in the property, but everything else that we do can be online, can be managed via an app, including signatures, which are date and time stamped within the InventoryBase system. And it means then that we can hopefully get the industry back up and running, back up to normal levels. And it's really heartening to see that we've seen such a big leap in activity since lockdown has eased, and that is only set to increase. So to recap from an industry point of view, in order to manage all this increased activity, to manage this increased workload, there's some options there in regards to Workstreams, so you can access suppliers. But the other thing with Academy you can also do is upskill yourself as clerks, upskill your workforce, depending on how big a provider you actually are. And it means it dovetails with what we're doing on InventoryBase in regards to making sure we support our clients, our customers, be them in InventoryBase account holders or external looking to come in to use use the Workstream service. And it means then that hopefully we give the market the confidence that, we are starting to pick up and we are starting to get back to some kind of normality, and that we are effectively open for business and providing a good quality service. Daniel's just asked me, where does it leave the industry in terms of year-on-year figures? 90% up from a low base could still be less than 50%. Yes, it could be. It could be. I mean, at the moment, we're in a bit of uncharted territory, as you well know, Daniel. It's very difficult to know, but the fact is that we've seen such an increase from where we were at beginning of lockdown doesn't necessarily mean we're anywhere near up to where we are normally at this time of year. Certainly from my point of view, I think we're up to about 75% activity. But what it indicates, that 90%, is the fact is that we've seen a movement and an upward movement, which in itself is great news. It means then when we're not staying still, we're not contracting, we're expanding, and we're seeing that activity increase, which means then our client activity is increased, which means clerks are getting more jobs. We're seeing certainly more work coming through on Workstreams, and we are certainly seeing more and more letting agents coming through asking us to take on more work, certainly from a personal point of view, but also from use of the InventoryBase services. And certainly I think in the last month or so, we've definitely seen an increase in sign-ups onto InventoryBase, because I think people realise the fact that you need a really good system to be able to support your inventory reports activity, and also you certainly need a system that can support tenants in regards to allowing them to record and upload and make comments and sign their reports remotely, so we don't have to have that one-to-one contact. You're right in regards to 90% is 90% of what, but it could be any figure. But I think what we can say is it certainly has gone up exponentially. Certainly from InventoryBase point of view, the customer base is around about, say, 60 to 80% of expected figures. So again, I think what that just illustrates is that the industry is moving, it's moving forward. It's starting to gather pace, and we're starting to see really good numbers in regards to the amount of reports required, which indicates then people are moving, people feel able to move, and that the processes and the support mechanisms are in place for that to actually be able to happen. I hope that has given you a bit of an indication of where we are in the industry, and the fact that you've got options into managing your increased workloads through Workstreams by signing up and using the supplier network and accessing suppliers maybe that you weren't aware of, or maybe just haven't been able to access before. And also the fact that we've got the support mechanisms in place, certainly from InventoryBase Academy point of view, and also within-house within InventoryBase itself. But as you can see from the last slide, if you do want more information or advice or some guidance or just a general chat about the system, the services we provide, and also how we're seeing the wider industry, you can contact sales on that number, or you can email me at sian@inventorybase.com. And as everyone knows, I'm happy to talk, happy to have a chat, and especially if you're a clerk, a supplier, looking to see how the industry is going, seeing, what you need to do next, how maybe you need to increase what you're doing in regards to work, and how you could potentially pivot and gain more clients and more work, then we can certainly help you with that. And I'm certainly happy to discuss that with you. That is today's presentation. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to join us. I do hope that you're enjoying Future Proptech and enjoying all the various sessions and shows, and do make sure you take advantage of all of them. We are going to be available in our individual booths, so do pop in, ask us questions, see how we can help you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. So thank you very much indeed, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.